Ready?
Justin, middle of the field, 45, 50. Green grass in front of him, leaving Lions in his wake.
I am Jeff Joniak.
Blitz is on. Down he goes! Husker!
What was it like playing for Coach Ditka?
I don't want to answer any questions like that.
61 yards! A Sunday stroll for Justin Fields.
Oh, wow!
And Thayer.
Now, Bears Etc. with the voices of the Chicago Bears, Jeff Joniak and Tom Thayer.
Quiet weekend for the Bears, who returned from their bye, ready to go to work on what is a 5-piece bucket of challenges, Big Tom, awaiting beginning Sunday at noon at Soldier Field with the NFC North Division leading Detroit Lions. With Super Bowl winning Chicago Bear guard Tom Thayer, I'm Jeff Joniak, and this is Bears Etc. episode number 39. We'll hear from head coach Matt Eberflus on his bye weekend and what he's looking forward to. The Bears, Tom, are 3-1 in primetime this season, and frankly, I'm looking at Sunday at Soldier Field at noon as primetime for the Bears. Primetime game, home, Lions open as a 4-point favorite, just 3 weeks removed from the dramatic come-from-behind win November 19th at Ford Field against the Bears, the one that got away. So no better way to make amends for that misstep than to treat this and send some messages in the remaining moments of this season in the NFC North by whipping their behinds. How about it?
Well, Jeff, the thing about it is if you're an improving football team and your ultimate goal is for success means winning an opportunity to get into the playoffs. And you're never going to get into the playoffs if you don't control your own division. And so letting the one slip away in Detroit, it's just, I still have a bad taste in my mouth from that. And then going into the road in Minnesota on prime time and beating Minnesota in Minnesota, it meant a lot to this football team. But it would mean a lot to the Bears crowd and the future success if Matt Eberflus, as he talked about at the podium, making sure you improve individually, you improve segments, and that how it affects the team. And then you finish the season strong. And that means you have to beat Detroit at home.
So Justin Fields came off his injury and really tore it up at Detroit, shakes off the 2 fourth-quarter fumbles in Minnesota, throws the 36-yard dart to DJ to set up the game-winning field goal. Does that give him a platform to jump off of now for the Final Five and say, hey, put all those critics quiet, go out there, lead your team, lead some wins, and really refurbish some of what has been tarnished over the course of the season?
The thing about it, success or failure, you're always going to have critics. And I think Justin should leave the critics in his rearview mirror and just continuously try to figure out how can he improve his game from the quarterback position and how it affects the team. So I think Justin has done a nice job since he's returned from his thumb injury. But you need to see him improve at that rapid rate throughout the remainder of the season. And from throwing the dart type pass that you talked about to DJ Moore to the designed quarterback runs into his evaluation of downfield passing game from dropping back from center. I think all those things that he can improve upon affects the entire team.
Bears fans, you can be there for live NFL action all season long as the official ticket marketplace of the Bears and the NFL. Ticketmaster has a wide selection of tickets available for every game. Find tickets today at Ticketmaster.com/Bears. Jeff and Tom and the Bears Etc. podcast. Does the fact that Fields ran wild and has run wild on the Lions throughout his career factor in on Sunday?
Well, how did he run wild? Did he run wild out of desperation early in his career, or is he running wild because they have designed quarterback runs? And that's the thing, Jeff, that I'm most encouraged by with Justin running is these designed quarterback runs. They have good athleticism at the tackle position. They're getting good blocking out of the tight end position, and they're getting good blocks from the running backs. So if they have a designed quarterback run for Justin, that means there's always going to be one extra blocker on the field than they have defenders. So to me, going forward, I like to see the success of designed quarterback runs rather than I see running out of desperation. So I'm encouraged by the growth and the development of the offense that are including the designed quarterback runs.
What do you think the effect or impact the rumor mill might have on the psyche of this team? It goes from top to bottom, really. any number of thoughts. I know they say don't read, don't watch, don't listen, but family members do. We know it. It's hard to keep the outside noise outside sometimes. And with just 5 games to go, see, I posed this differently to Matt Eberflus, and we'll hear from him in just a minute, that, why can't you just stir these guys up into a frenzy with a 5-game schedule coming off a late bye, because it's not like it's midseason and it hasn't gone well and you could, potentially not have these guys' attention anymore. But after the win, how they did it in 5 games, just 5 games to go out there, 5 outdoor games, and you have the capability of winning all 5 games. You really do. I know the Packers are playing better. I know the Lions are the leaders in the division, and they're dangerous, no question about it. But you took them to the mat in Detroit. Why can't you do it here?
Well, unfortunately, I had the experiences of living through a 5-11 and 6-10 season. And so we had basically 3 or 4 newspapers that you'd have to pay attention to have, be infiltrated by the rumor mill. If you stayed away from the papers, you really didn't hear a lot of stuff. But nowadays it can come from every different angle. And when Matt was asked about the podium, about the vote of confidence that he feels he's getting from Ryan Poles, that's got to be a confidence builder inside the building. And it has to have players realize that, this whole project may stay in forward motion. So you better perform at a high level. You're always being evaluated, and don't count the coach on you to get you pumped up or fired up as a team moving forward. It's got to be for a positive message that's in the locker room from the veteran leaders in this team, on this team. And, Montez Sweat is the type of guy, he's been here long enough that he can have a voice and he can have an opinion where this team should be going. DJ Moore has proved himself in this locker room that he can be a voice of confidence inside that locker room. So a lot of these young guys, whether it's guys like Tevin Jenkins or Justin Fields or whomever it is, they should be listening to some of these veterans about what they need to do in order to get this thing pointed in the right direction. Include T.J. Edwards and Tremaine Johnson, for that matter.
I got to tell you something. We did our show on Sunday night, Bears Game Night Live on Fox, and it was a mic'd-up segment with Kyler Gordon. And you heard the youthful exuberance of just having fun playing football. It reminded me of how you guys played. You guys just had fun. Of course, you guys were winning almost all the time, too. However, but the Urlacher, Briggs era, Peanut Tillman, that whole group, they just had fun going out there, and they just ran around like little kids and played ball. That's what it sounded like in that game against Minnesota, and I find that to be a very positive thing, because this is mostly a young football team, and they're just starting their careers. They're just growing. There's still growth to go, and if they're having fun doing it despite the cobblestone road of an uneven season, and just tastes of success here over the last dozen games, 8 games, I think that's encouraging, and maybe their attention will be extra sparked and focused on what the task is, and that's doing your job and go get some wins. I know I am being ultra positive on this podcast.
But, I'm glad you brought that up, because there's something that caught my eye and we didn't have time to talk about it. So in the mic up segment with Kyler Gordon is after he got his interception, and they go to the camera and celebrate. If you look at the player to his immediate right that was running down the field ready to celebrate was Montez Sweat. So here you got a guy that has some real credibility inside the league, who signed a long-term contract with the Bears. You have 2 guys that are separated by quite a few years in terms of an NFL life. But, yeah, that youthful enthusiasm is contagious. And now you got a guy that shows the excitement to be playing in an NFL game and then has a big play on Monday Night Football. And look to the guy to his right. It's the guy that we want to be an exciting partner of this football team in what they're able and what they're going to accomplish.
Well, you don't want to, and we've seen it. We've seen it here, and you've seen it probably in your locker rooms when things haven't gone well. The non-interested parties, and they are thinking about the future. They're making business decisions. They're not engaged. It doesn't losing doesn't hurt them like it should. So I want that to be the case. I know I'm coming up with all these perfect scenarios, but it's something we touched on here with Bears head coach Matt Eberflus. So let's join that conversation. Our weekly confab with Matt and the status at Hallis. All right, welcome back. Welcome back, Big Matt. Weekend in the rearview mirror and time to dig in here. First of all, how was your weekend?
It was good. Got a chance, like I said, to spend some time with my ladies, so it was good. And unwind this weekend a little bit. Watch the games, of course, the college games on Saturday, and then the pro games on Sunday, and that was enjoyable.
Anything stick out on those games that caught your eye?
Yeah, just like it comes down to the finish. The finish part is so important. That
even in college, right?
Even in college, so how you finish is so important, and your 2-minute and your 4-minute operation is huge, and obviously the ball is always big. And you saw the games where the teams that won the takeaway battle win those games most and create opportunities for themselves to score points, and you certainly saw that this weekend.
Focus on the college thing real quick. Are you seeing the reason why the pro game is changing a little bit because of what you see in college every week now?
Yeah, you can definitely see it. And, I watched my alma mater, Toledo play Bowling Green, and I watched my old coach, Coach Saban, play in the championship game there, and certainly happy that he's in there for sure. But, yeah, you can definitely see it. There's a lot of things that are starting to translate up to the pro game.
They got to have an SEC team in the playoff, right?
Yeah,
somehow, some way.
It wouldn't be right.
It wouldn't be right. Most of the NFL players are coming from the SEC. All right, well, the focus now, getting the guys back, and I know when you sent them out of here, they had to meet with sports science and get ready. So, seriously, literally, are you putting them on a scale when they get back right away to see how it went, literally?
No, we're doing everything from checking them, medically to see if anything came up when they were gone, and we want to check with them mentally where they are as well as physically. And the guys are in a good spot right now. They had a good workout this morning with the strength staff, and checked in medically with our trainers and our performance staff, and we're in a good spot.
There's this debate about the bye week. When's the best time for the bye week? With this team going what it went through so far this season, coming back over the last 8 games at 500, but overcoming a lot of injuries, other issues going on. Does this kind of strengthen the case for the late bye, because now you got a 5-game season and you can invest every ounce? Not that you can't when it's looking back at a 17-game season, but it's a 5-game season, and you guys can make a lot of noise and do a lot of things that you already had penciled in as what your goal was, and there's no saying, no telling what could happen here in the next 5.
Yeah, I think it's their bye week is where it is, and I think it worked out this year because we had those 2 mini buys. We had the 5 games and another 5 games, and we had the mini buy. So, this bye week has obviously worked out really well for us at the end. And like I said, we're in a good spot health wise, and also mentally where we are, coming off a divisional victory and then playing another division leader coming in here in the Soldier Field, which we think is outstanding in front of our fans, and our guys are super excited about that. And in the way we won last week, to really prove this to ourselves that we can pull these things together for ourselves.
Can you get them really stirred up over these last 5? Like, hey, what's stopping us?
Yeah, the guys are really excited. I had a nice team meeting with the guys and the opportunity that lies ahead of us, and the guys see where everything is, and we're just going to keep put our heads down and keep working and keep improving. And part of the bye week is improving. Each individual guy. Each individual position and each individual unit, and that has been spelled out for each section of that. And we talked about that in the team meeting, and they talked about it in the unit meetings. Now we got to set the drills up, to practice up, to make sure we make those improvements.
What have you liked?
Yeah, I mean, the things that you've liked is obviously the resiliency, the resolve of the football team. To be able to handle adversity and go through that and come out the other end has been really good. The attitude and the work ethic has never changed. These guys have been true pros all the way through, and I commend those guys for that. And I commend the leadership of the football team to be able to pull through that way and put ourselves in this position to feel great about the last 5 games. And obviously being at home against Detroit is going to be a big one.
Record aside, what haven't you liked?
It's obviously, when you look at the things that you want to improve is, really just the protection of the football. That took us a while to figure that out. We got that right, and we got the ball right. We were going to be right. And once we did, that was obviously a big positive for us, because you have to give yourself a chance, at the end of the game to win those games, and we didn't do that in the first 4 games. We had the ball turnover. We turned over the ball too much, 4 scores, and obviously that's something that you got to avoid.
And I mean, I'm assuming you're a head coach, so your mind is always working, even when you're in your downtime and you go through things. And I don't know, maybe you're not a look back guy. I dwell on things, so I saw something written earlier today. Really, 6 minutes. 6 minutes of playing time away from being a 500 team and a whole different look for the 5 games in the playoff hunt. Not that you're not now. I mean, hey, you win 5 games, something's going to happen. Do you ever dwell on that, or do you use that as, hey guys, 6 minutes from 6 and 6?
I always look at performance and what you can learn from it. So yes, no question. I think you can learn from every performance. We could learn from last week's performance. 2 weeks ago, we can learn from the first game of the year, the second game of the year, and we always have to do that. And you have to learn, process it, and then move forward to the next opponent.
All right. Justin Fields against Detroit, the first game, boom, he came back. He was on fire. 16 of 23, 169, ran the ball really well. Going against them a second time, and he's run the ball well against Detroit his whole career. So does that give him, not to mention it's his home turf, his home building, really a starting point of success against Detroit that he can build on?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to look at, obviously, what we did last time against them, and we're going to play off of those looks, and I think that's a great opportunity for our offense, to do that, and also our defense, and then we've always got to be solid on special teams. And again, these division games are always tight. They're always, hard-fought. They're always physical, and we understand that the elements are going to play a role, coming forward, into these next games, and special teams is going to be a big part of field position.
Running game. It's been a committee approach, obviously, all year. You say the health is really trending in a positive direction. Does that include the backfield?
Yes,
Yeah?
yes,
Okay.
yes, it does, for sure. And, running the ball, in the weather is going to be important. And running the ball, as you get into December and beyond that point is always going to be big, going into the future. So I just think that, the ability to do that, stop the run and be able to run the ball, playing in this North Division, I think it's going to be paramount going forward.
I asked Ryan Poles this a couple weeks ago. Did he envision that it would wind up being a spread the ball around committee approach to the running game? And he kind of laughed. He said, yeah, you think that, but then you think somebody's going to emerge or whatever. But because of injuries and guys not able to play the whole season, did you feel the same way? Did you think it was going to shake out where you'd have a top dog that would get breaks during the game, but it's now been just the opposite?
Yeah, we feel good about all 3 guys, and again, whoever rises up, that particular week.
Feed them, right?
Based on injury, just feed him and let him do his thing. And, obviously the line has done a good job of creating those holes, and obviously the perimeter, our tight ends have done a really solid job of really, capturing the edge, so to speak, of the defense, and the perimeter blocking with our receivers has been good as well. I mean, we're 5th in the league, I think, in rushing.
Yeah.
And so we're going to continue to do that and continue to improve.
There's always debate too. Okay, you're a outdoor team in Chicago. Automatically, you think mentally they got an advantage over visitors, or on the road. These next 5 games are all going to be outside, and it could be inclement weather, cold, whatever. But a lot of these guys are from parts all over the country, warm weather, whatever. Do they have to adopt that in some way, or do you have to pound it in their head? This is who we're going to use this to our advantage, because we got 2 dome teams in the division. Yes, the Packers are like the Bears, and that's traditional. But do you use that to your advantage in any way and convince these guys, hey, we're going to embrace the weather and we're going to use it to our advantage?
Well, what's nice about it, you practice in it, so you get used to it, and certainly we have a bunch of guys that are not from up this way, and certainly they're cold when they're out there, but they learn to deal with it, and they learn to focus on executing during the weather. So, we had to walk through today. It was cold out there. We're outside, and we're going to continue to do that as long as the weather's fine in terms of the wind. But we'll be out there every day.
Got to talk about some individuals. TJ Edwards, I just love how he plays. I just love how he plays, and how over the course of the season it's just becoming, it seems he's playing faster, whether that's mentally, angles, whatever, and he's viciously popping guys. Is he exactly what you expected, or has he surpassed your expectations in this
Yeah, we certainly knew that watching him, with Philadelphia, and when he came out, that he's a very instinctive player, and he's he's definitely shown that to us. And that's the position that when you play that will position in our defense, it's been a highlighted position. And you have to have great instincts there, and you got to be a playmaker. And he's done that. He's leading the league in tackles, and he's made really good splash plays in terms of interceptions, deflections, stops on third and fourth down. And you saw that evident the other night. And he's continuing to impress.
And then the Montez Sweat factor, just going over a couple games on my own this weekend, just looking back, this word multiplier that's being used, it certainly is relevant here with him. Honestly, do you feel like the best is yet to come for this player? He's still a young player, and that length and that speed, which, 40 times for defensive ends, you kind of dismiss, they're not running in a straight line, but when he gets unblocked, he's on you. That's it. It's a couple steps, and that's it. How impactful can he be to this defense the rest of this season and beyond?
Yeah, the test factor, right?
Yep.
It's pretty impressive to watch him, first of all, practice, and watch him with his teammates, how he is encouraging and how he tries to help. And always.
So he's been vocal, too.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, good.
And he's always wired in the meetings and practice, and, he does a really good job with that. He's always, encouraging others. You can watch him during the game. If somebody else makes a sack, he's there encouraging them. If somebody else makes a big interception, he's right there. So he's a really good teammate and a really good person to start. But he's certainly a great talent too. His length, his ability to take off on the ball, get off on the ball, his takeoff is really good, and his ability to turn the corner. And we're going to keep using that. We're going to put him in position where he can highlight his skill. And he can certainly help us. And, again, it's always about rush and cover, and rush. So it's about him rushing, but it's also about the coverage holding up, just another tick so those guys can get home in the rush. And that's always important.
The defense is a topic. It's caught the attention of the league and the analysts and all that, do these guys believe it too?
Yeah.
Their own guys?
I do. The continuity and, the guys coming together, they can feel that, but it's about making plays, right? So when the guys make plays, they get confident, and the guys have made plays. They made some big stops over the course of the last 8 games, and they've made a lot of nice plays, and then they're confident, and they got to continue to do the work on the field because all we got is the practice field. If we can continue to do that, we're going to be okay.
And, the development of individuals throughout the course of this season, not to mention the free agents you brought in, they were established players, but they still had to prove it again. Right? Mm-hmm. You have to do it every game, every year. Do you feel there's been development across the board on offense, defense, and special teams with this football team?
Yeah, no doubt. You look at the first and second year players. We had a bunch over the last, and then even bringing in free agents. So you're teaching them your system, and this football team is way different than it was last year. And you can feel that, if it's Kyler Gordon or Brisker, or even Mooney, guys that like that, DJ coming in, that's into a new system. There's
Tevin Jenkins developing
2 new D tackles, Tyreek Stevenson, Smitty. You can go across the board from the lines to the perimeter players, and the coaches are really good teachers, and that's our job is to develop them into good football players.
You think you can be a dangerous team down the stretch?
I know that we're going to focus on Detroit, and that's going to be our main focus this week, and we're going to put our best foot forward.
Anything about them that's altered since 3 weeks ago?
No, I know they always rely on their running game, and you can certainly feel that to start that game last week. And they have 2 good runners. Their offensive line is obviously the strength of their football team, and you can feel that. Their perimeter players are obviously very skilled. They got those guys on the perimeter a bunch of different ways, a couple reverses, double reverses, and obviously the tight end Laporta had one heck of a game yesterday, and he's always going to be, and like I said, he's beyond his years, in terms of his, how he utilizes, and plays that offense and utilizes his length. And he's a good player.
All right, well, good luck with the rest of your preparation this week. Talk to you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you. As you heard my last question there, can you guys be a dangerous team down the stretch? He refuses to look at the bigger picture. He's only focused on Detroit, and that's fine. That's what he's always been like. That's what he's always – but I know deep down he must feel that way. And what they got to lose? Nothing.
I feel that way.
Yeah.
I don't need Matt to tell me that he
Right.
feels they're a dangerous product going down, at the remainder of the season. I think the Bears are. I think if you're a defensive coordinator and you got to look at DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, what Darnell Mooney can do, the running back position, the influence of the running game, the development of the offensive line. I know I'll put in the athleticism of Justin Fields. And I purposely left that to last because there's a lot of other things you have to look at. And then on the defensive side of the ball, statistically, how this group is improving. So they're a nervous team. And you say, during the course of your career, whether it was the 85 Bears or even after that, you think, man, I'd be a little nervous to play this winning team. Sometimes I'm more nervous to play a team with a losing record that's really on the upswing, because those are the guys that are trying to make lasting impressions to the building, whether it's Kevin Warren, Ryan Poles, Matt Eberflus, or all their position coaches. So, that would make me nervous as well. But I do like the fact that the Bears are on the uptick on the last 5 games of this season.
And Tom, I think you'd agree they have elements that are dangerous come December, and I've always felt that after Thanksgiving. And I think just listening over the years to Tom Brady talk about after Thanksgiving football is when the season really starts. If you're a contender, you start to separate, of course. If you're a pretender, you fizzle. And if you're a dangerous team, it's because you started slow and you're coming on strong and you're looking ahead to the future. That was Detroit a year ago. It's been Jacksonville a year ago. And so there's nothing saying it can't be the Bears in 2023. I know it has not been easy. It has been trouble. It has been complicated. It has been wrought with some issues. And but somehow, some way, they managed to play 500 ball in the last 8 games. And I know that's not winning football, but it is heading towards a direction where you can actually say, okay, let's see what happens when they face the big dogs from Detroit coming here on Sunday. Good news, Chicago. United Airlines is getting brand new planes with all the bells and whistles like Bluetooth connectivity, screens at every seat, and room for everyone's roller bag. United, proud to fly the Chicago Bears, and you too. And I'm not to say, I'm being honest here. This team has still a lot of growth to go. They still have some things they got to fix, a lot of things, and they still got to blend together chemistry-wise. But I look at the names now, just the names of players, and I brought this up with Matt, as you heard, Tom, just the development of some of these names. And you go right to the secondary, number one. You go at the line of scrimmage on the offensive side of the ball with Tevin Jenkins, with Darnell Wright, with Braxton Jones. You go to the young running backs. You go to the play of Kairos Santos. You go to a number of defense. Now you got some dudes. You got some dudes playing ball.
Right. And I think when you look at guys like Javon Dexter and Zach Pickens, you talk about they signed Andrew Billings to a future contract. They have Montez Sweat, who's going to be aboard for quite a while. And I think those are the type of guys that from the weight room to the practice field, they can be a positive influence on a lot of these young guys. And you think away the linebacker position has come around with TJ Edwards, Tremaine Johnson, but don't leave out Jack Sanborn and Sewell. There's a good group of guys there that are going to make this defensive front super, super competitive, and they've developed depth at the defensive back.
We have fun with each other, and this is a player, Tremaine Johnson, but twice you've called him Tremaine Johnson, Tremaine Edmonds.
I have?
Yes.
Oh.
But I'm not even –
Tremaine Johnson, it's a defensive back.
Right.
I played with a wide receiver I played with in the USFL.
There's also been a cornerback of the same name.
Right. But Tremaine Johnson, the Tremaine Johnson that I played with was a first rounder in the NFL in the NFL and signed in the USFL and had a great career. My apologies to Tremaine Edmonds.
Hey, I got sidetracked because I got involved in my own enthusiasm because you know what? For us as announcers, man, when the games are big, you rise to the occasion. You're hanging on every snap and you're more dialed in. You just are. It's like you're waiting to see, what's going to happen. It's like Christmas morning when you're a kid and can't wait to open up your present. And that's how I feel about Sunday. I do feel that. But the Bears have elements that I was getting into. They can run the ball and they can stop the run. So right there you have a chance of winning, period. In December football, you run the ball, you stop the run, you have a chance of winning. You need very good and confident special teams play at all times at this time of the year. We don't want any penalties on special teams and no turnovers, Big Tom. No missed kicks. No bad punts. You got to take all those elements out of the game. Right?
Well, I know that you're the designated weatherman of the broadcast team.
Yes.
But when I think about playing cold weather games against warm weather teams, and you have a dome team like Detroit, you have a team like Arizona, you have a team like Atlanta, all these guys are warm weather teams, and that's when you want to see your team go out there and say, all right, man, this is our home stadium. This is inclement weather. This is when we flourish. This is when we play our best. And it's not the same for Cleveland and Green Bay. However, you have to come out here and, you have to put that flag at the middle of the field and say, okay, this is our territory.
Well, until it really gets like bitter cold. I don't know if it's an impact like when, the Michael Vick game when he came on a Sunday night to Chicago and did not want to play football. Let's just be honest. Remember that one?
I mean, but
when it's below zero.
When you're walking around wherever you're from and it's in between 50 and 70 degrees, when you come in here Sunday and it's a high temperature of 35, that's peak day and it's going to go down from there.
I've always said, too, at Soldier Field, if there's a little rain in the forecast, the damp cold at 35, but it's a damp cold, that goes through your bones all the way to the next day. So that's a shiver. That's a shiver waiting to happen, Tom. You better bring your mucklucks. You better bring that hoodie. Miller Lite, the official beer of the Chicago Bears. Tastes like Miller Time Chicago. Okay, bunch of stuff here, Tommy. Matt's not going to answer these questions, not now anyway, but I wanted to ask him, and I chose not to. Any regrets in the first dozen games? And, there's no player or coach that doesn't regret a moment in a game, a play they should have made, a block they should have had, or a decision that was made. But the regrettable games obviously are blown lead against Denver and Detroit. You're talking about 6 minutes of ball. We talked about that. You're 6 minutes from being 6-6. And so the crazy thing is, right now, in the NFC, there are only 4 teams above 500. Okay, 4. 8 in the AFC, which we all knew was supposed to be stronger, and it's proving out to be the case. 8 above 500 teams in the AFC, just 4 in the NFC. You got 5 NFC teams are 6-6. Only 2 in the AFC. So it's an anything can happen conference. And you could have been 6-6, a game and a half as the number 7 seed in the playoffs if you had finished those 2 games. So that would be my regret. What would you say?
Well, the NFL wants parity, and they have parity. And it is, you look at what is the separation of having a winning record or having a 500 record. And it is those final moments of a game, finishing. And, Matt talked about it, and he refers to because they played Detroit recently and they're playing them again, talk about finishing that game. I think we all really learned a lesson of how important that is. And then finishing, when you talk about 5 games left at the end of a season, that's a big part of it too, because you can almost see the light at the end of the tunnel, but you know how many good things that can still happen in the end of this season.
Tom, if they're going to take the ball away like they've been, that's going to be great, but they got to make the other team pay, though. 7 interceptions, only 13 points off those turnovers in the last 2 games. Yep. So they got to talk about finishing then. You got to make them pay. You got to make them pay the rest of the way. If they're going to be this kind of a takeaway team, because right now they're tied for 4th in the league in interceptions.
Well, I guess if there's 2 things that you would like to close out the season on a positive note is the Bears' defense in the red zone and then the Bears scoring after turnovers. If you just minimalized it down to what are the 2 things that can help you the most throughout the rest of the season and, continue to play how you've been playing. They've had a really solid running game. The continuous development of Justin and the receivers, including Cole in that group. The development of playing a better team defense with Matt as the defensive coordinator. You finish the defense, if they're more stingy in the red zone and the Bears can score after turnover opportunities, you're talking about the successful record at the end of the day.
You know, it's crazy. On the ride back from Detroit, it was a kick in the you know what? It was kick in the stomach, and it felt like, my gosh, this is just an uphill battle. But boy, one win and then a little look ahead after a bye to recalibrate a little bit. It just gives you, especially now, they got to go out and do it. They got to go out and beat Detroit. That's it. It's a home game in the division. End of story.
Listen, this game, no matter where they are, it has the emotional attachment of the Green Bay game to start the year, because I was probably no more disappointed after a game than after getting beat by Green Bay at week 1. And I have enormous expectations of these final 5 games for the Bears, and I have I'm already feeling that type of attachment to this game, and it's still early in the week.
Take a chance. Download the BetRivers app today. Yeah, show up nasty on Sunday. Have a really nasty disposition, Tom. That's when you're at your best.
It'll be before Sunday, I can guarantee you that.
We got to talk Cole Kmet, Tom, your self-proclaimed Jeff Joniak favorite player. He's just a great guy. Come on, man. Yeah. But I will say this. I love this quote from him. I am so much a part of the run game that it helps me get open. And the way they're chipping him and using him, it is creating space for him to do some damage in the passing game. How significant of a development is this for the Bears offense?
Oh, it's incredible. If you look at a tight end's role, and if he's equally as important on all 3 downs, rather than being inserted on 3rd and long and 2nd and long, and he's going to be a part of the passing game rather than the blocking game, you don't create the deception with them. If you go back and you look at the first play of the Minnesota game, it was an exterior screen to the tight end, Cole Kmet. So what he can line up in a wide variety of positions. He's taken snaps from center on short yardage plays, but I don't think there's any a more important role than blocking by the tight end. When you go back and you look at Mike Ditka's era, they weren't blockers. And then all of a sudden they got involved in the passing game and they took a bigger role inside the offense. But Cole, when we were talking the other day, he's got almost 700 reps at the tight end position. And the other guy's a little less than 200, a little more than 200. So you look at what his value is into an offense when you're talking about almost 700 reps with 5 games to go.
Got a question for you. Just sparked a thought, because in the days when the Patriots had Tom Brady on a solid run game, they had a lot of different running backs that did the dirty work, but they had 2 really good tight ends and they had 2 really good slot receivers. And the Randy Moss era hadn't kicked in there in New England, or they didn't really invest in the big outside X's, right? Would you like an offense for Justin that continues to be focused on building that running game, play action, but having 2 tight ends that are capable of moving the sticks in a damaging way where you have to pick your poison as a defense?
Oh, yeah. I mean, listen, running game is always going to be my priority, because the reason that we're talking about Cole Kmet and how important he is to this football team, because he blocks well at the line of scrimmage, that affects the running game. And then you talk about how that affects play action and how big of his role is in play action passing. So, yeah, I mean, ultimately it would be awesome to have 2 tight ends that are equally as talented. And I think that can help your offense a lot in short yardage goal line, in the red zone, and in the field of play. So, yeah, I mean, it would be to have 2 guys of that similar structure, strength, and pass catching ability. It would help an offense a lot.
Here's another thing too. He's taken some hellacious hits, and he keeps getting up and going to work. He is the only tight end in the NFL to play in every regular season game since 2020, and we've seen him get rocked, and he is a tough out when he gets the ball in his hands. He takes you for a ride a little bit. He batters you a little bit. He is an indispensable player at this point. Let's be honest. He really is.
I think you're actually making a better point about why would you want another tight end, because if he has 700 reps and the combined of the other two, is, like I said, a little less than 200, little more than 200.
It's 3/4 of the reps.
You just signed him to a new contract. You want the Cole Kmet in 4 years that you signed this year. And the way you're going to do it is being able to take a little bit off of his plate, during the season. And no player wants to hear that. However, if you're looking at the contributions of the tight end in the modern day NFL, there's some things you would like to be able to every once in a while give them a break.
Steinhoffel's is an employee-owned furniture and mattress store. Visit any of their 4 Chicagoland locations in Vernon Hills, Crystal Lake, Downers Grove, and Harwood Heights, or shop online at steinhoffels.com. Jeff and Tom on the Bears, Etc. Podcast. Let's look at some other things around the league. Oh, by the way, today our taping of this is December 4th. It airs on December 5th. December 3rd, 1985, Big Tom. A very important day in Bears history. The recording of the Super Bowl Shuffle. Did you remember that? Did that even flicker in your mind? Because you weren't there.
No, but I remember December 2nd.
Yes, you sure do. We don't have to talk about that.
That's when we got beat by the Miami Dolphins. We're flying home, getting ready to, as Willie Gault was trying to encourage guys in the team playing to show up at the Park West. And I remember when he brought the idea of the video up to me, I go, "Hey, Willie, do you have to dance on camera?" He goes, "Oh, yeah, we're all going to take part in that." And I go, that's one thing I will never do.
Well, let me ask you something. So you're on the team ride back and you're asking these questions. Was it your intention, win or lose, to actually go to do the Super Bowl Shuffle? So you didn't have a role in it. Well, you're just going to be a background guy. If you had gone.
That's what they were doing. When they were filming at the Park West, that's when they were filming the band scene.
Okay.
That everybody was like the chorus of a play. And so, between Cal Thomas and Mike Tomczak and Maury Buford and Stephon Humphreys and just the rest of the crew.
Well, you couldn't use all 53 in the video, but that would have been pretty cool. You could have had a little camera. You could have been a star, Tom. You could have been headed to the silver screen.
Listen, I don't think anything I've ever heard about the dancing of Fensick or the dancing of Steve Fuller or
Otis.
Tomczak playing the air guitar. The only good solo was Cal Thomas playing the saxophone.
Right, it was. Oh gosh, what good times though. Tom, New England, the first team, this is according to ESPN stats, the first team since 1938, Chicago Cardinals, to allow 10 points or fewer in 3 straight games and lose them all. This sport is crazy. You think it's all happened before, and it hasn't. I mean, I always thought the baseball, that's a never-ending number of things that, quote-unquote, never happened that could happen. In this league, it's continuing, too. That's nuts. Kind of crazy.
I don't know what it tells me. For all those years, you had so much respect for what Bill Belichick was doing in New England. Now, does it say that Tom Brady was a more important part of the package of success there than Belichick? But it's just another stat that for the first time since 1938, it's not a common occurrence.
No, surely not. Kenny Pickett had his ankle surgery, had the tightrope surgery. That's something that I believe Darnell Mooney had as well. It's supposed to be a quicker process for recovery in season, and so they're not putting him on IR. But that means Mitchell Trubisky, who's going to get the start against New England this week, now kind of impacts the Bears potentially having a higher draft pick or not that Carolina owns, or if New England, with only 2 wins on the season, they could eventually stumble into that first pick overall as well. So kind of an interesting side there for the former Bear quarterback. Any thoughts?
Yeah, it could be the first time in the history of the NFL that a team got beat. So if there's one more game statistically that adds to the statistics of you just read me from the 1938, New England could break that record, but Pittsburgh's offense hasn't really statistically been doing great things, although they did have a good game the first game after the firing of Matt Canada.
Right, you just want Carolina to stay where they're at from a Bears perspective. We're not, we're not looking at it any other way. What'd you think of Jordan Love last night?
I think I think that it's a real telltale sign if you're a quarterback that's fortunate to sit on the bench behind a all-star quality caliber quarterback. It helps you improve without ever playing snaps. And I think Aaron Rodgers was evidence of that when he sat behind Brett Favre for all those years. And now it's Jordan Love as evidence of that. I think Zach Wilson in New York Jets would have done the same thing if he would have had a chance to sit behind Aaron Rodgers if he was able to play the season. And it just goes back generations. When quarterbacks were drafted and they didn't have to play immediately, they did sit there and learn for 3 to 4 years before they actually had to go in and play.
Khalil Mack has 15 sacks now, leads the NFL with the Chargers. How about that?
Yeah, I don't know what to think about that. I'm, surprised, and I didn't know if he still had it in him, but obviously he's, having Joey Bosa across the line from him, but he's been hurt now a couple games. Khalil Mack has been able to work wonders this year, but I think one game he had 5 sacks, and then he had 10 in the other however many games they played.
All right, let's a quick look at Detroit, and we'll wrap things up here on the Bears Etc. podcast. I know you have strong feelings about that team. You a lot of respect for some of their players, their head coach, obviously. The way they run the ball, they got speed. We saw what the Bears did to that defense, which is probably the point that we have to bring up here is, they jumped to a 21-0 lead. So they are a quick strike. They got 21 points in the first quarter. Bam, 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 on the road in New Orleans, just like they did it on the opposite end of the spectrum against the Bears with a couple of drives and a safety, and they walk away at Ford Field with a win over the Bears. So they're a quick strike team that you can't let them be. And then this defense is having its issues. There are things about that defense that are not working for the Lions. So how do you exploit it? Because I think they really miss C.J. Gardner-Johnson, the bad the bad man at the safety position who is as annoying as they come and is as nasty as they come back there. There's something missing from that team defensively, and I hope they don't find it until a while down the road.
Well, Aiden Hutchinson has 44% of their pressures on defense. So they brought in Bruce Irving, who had a really bad personal foul of roughing the quarterback last week. 36 years old. He's been on the couch, and now he's their number 2 pass rusher. To me, I am going to run, not at the defensive end position. I'm going to tire out and attack Aiden Hutchinson, and I'm going to make a 36-year-old defensive end who I guarantee is not in shape yet. I'm going to make him defend the whole time. And you talk about Cole Kmet, the blocker, you can do it. You got Braxton Jones, who's got great length, who can block him. You got Darnell Wright and Cole and the rest of the guys who can block Aiden Hutchinson on the other side. So I'm not going to allow their defense to do what they want to do and put pressure into the backfield on Justin. And then when I look at their offense, you better be able to stop the 2 receivers and the tight end, because they have a lot of confidence in the pass blocking ability of their offensive line. And so if you allow them to have some big plays in the passing game, that's super discouraging to a defense at this point. But again, I think Jared Goff, he's intelligent. He doesn't have great escapability. So you put that pocket around him a lot like you did to Dobbs in Minnesota and make him throw from a really crowded, polluted area.
Laporta had himself a game, but I got to give credit to Goff. He threw in some tight windows and moved just enough to create a window of opportunity, but 9 for 140 for Laporta. Jamison Williams on the end around. That guy's lightning fast. He did score against the Bears as well, and of course, Amon-Ra St. Brown does just about everything well for Detroit. So it should be fun. A lot to get into over the course of the week. We'll have that next podcast for you. We'll get a look from a Detroit perspective on that game as well on our Thursday show. One last thing, Tom. Unbelievable what's going on in the transfer portal as of this day. More than 50 FBS quarterbacks have entered the portal already. So they're just moving around to see what's their next best opportunity to either win or get themselves on a track to be drafted high. And it's really something. And the money that's being discussed for the quarterbacks, coaches are out there quoting it'll take $1.5 to $2 million to get quarterback X here. Do you have the money?
What incentive are they going to have to compete and to work hard to be pros? Because that money's far off. You leave college with a couple of $1 million. I think it affects your incentive. And I know, football used to be a poor man's sport. Nowadays, you're going to have money coming into the league.
I mean, it's hard to even comprehend. It really is. It really is. But hey, none of our business, right?
Listen, I don't begrudge any of these guys for it because
it's there,
that's just part of it. There's more argument about the 4 college football teams that made it into the playoffs. So what do you want to? You want to complain about money or complain about a committee that, decided on what 4 teams best fit the playoff?
Do you think Florida State belonged?
Not with this quarter.
That's just
Georgia.
it. Well, yeah, I mean the quarterback, but then you're punishing the other guys, the other 21 starters.
I understand that, but
man,
you saw what happened with TCU last year when they didn't even make a game of it.
We're brought to you by PNC, official bank of the Bears. That's going to wrap us up. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. I've been back with you on Thursday. We'll take a deep dive on the Lions. Thanks for listening, and please subscribe now on the Chicago Bears official app, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcast. Tom, you delivered it today. Nice job.
Yeah, thanks, Big Jeff.
Talk to you Thursday, and bear down, everybody.